Good morning. This is the Business Lens where we go beyond the headlines and make sense of the numbers shaping your money, your business, and Nigeria's economy. Good morning. My name is Divine Alex. Let's start at the top, shall we? Now, here's a debate because we had an explosive weekend that's been making the rounds over the past few days. Did the federal government really spend more than 8 trillion naira outside the national budget? Well, the finance ministry says no. It insists Nigeria does not operate a shadow budget and says every kobo spent is backed by law and approved by the National Assembly. But here's where the conversation gets even more interesting. Now, if there was no illegal spending, why did the IMF's observation create so much confusion in the first place? And does this expose a bigger issue around how government reports its finances? That is a question I'm going to leave to you. Now, let's head to the common man's area. If you've been hoping for, cheaper fuel, or maybe lower prices at the pump, here's something you would want to pay attention to. Dangote Refinery has cut the price of petrol again, its second reduction in just 1 week, bringing its ex-gantry price down from 1,125 naira to 1,075 naira per litre. But that's not even the bigger story. The refinery has also opened its doors to all the qualified marketers, which is a move that could reshape competition in Nigeria's fuel market. So, is this the beginning of a real petrol price war, and will Nigerians finally see lower prices at the pump? There's also another controversy around Dangote because they had to release a statement talking about the fact that, their prices is also not directly linked to international prices, global prices of crude. Now, let's head to the next one, where the NNPC had a revenue shortfall of 636 billion naira in less than 1 month. That is crazy. Now, is this about falling oil prices, operational costs, market realities, or is there a bigger story behind Nigeria's national oil company's latest numbers? We're going to break it down. Now, let's step away from that particular story and head to the next one, where I also think that this one is really something interesting. Now, while everyone is talking about petrol prices and refinery competition, another reminder is that Nigeria is still fighting a multi-billion naira battle against oil theft. The Nigerian Navy has uncovered a hidden illegal fuel storage site in Rivers State, recovering nearly 12,000 liters of suspected illegal refined diesel. The discovery is part of Operation Delta Sentinel, but this also raises another question. Despite tighter security and repeated crackdowns, why does illegal refining continue to thrive in Nigeria's oil-producing region? Now, let's step away from that and head to the next one, which comes with a question that many Nigerians will probably be asking. If we are still battling power shortages at home, why are we exporting electricity and not even getting paid on time? So this is what we have. New figures from the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, NEC, shows that electricity customers in Togo, Benin, and Niger Republic owe Nigeria about 17.45 billion naira for power supplied to them in just the first 3 months of this year. They paid less than 30% of what they were billed, raising fresh concerns about the financial health of Nigeria's already struggling power sector. Now, the electricity conversation did not just end here, so you have to stay with me because this is really worth thinking about as well. The question is, if Nigerians are still experiencing frequent blackouts, where is all the subsidy money going? Another figures from NEC show that the federal government spent more than 358 billion naira supporting electricity tariffs in just the first 3 months of 2026, which is an average of 119 billion naira every month. The subsidy is keeping tariffs frozen at July 2024 levels, but it also raises fresh questions about what is really going on in Nigeria's power sector. If you're spending over 119 billion naira every month, why are the blackouts and the 1 day off still happening? Now, while government is looking like they're doing a tumbon on the power sector, it's also preparing to raise trillions from the domestic markets. And that takes us to our next story, where the numbers also deserves your attention. The central bank plans to auction a massive 5.8 trillion naira worth of treasury bills between July, which is this month, and September Interestingly, that's more than 4 times the government's net domestic borrowing target in the previous quarter. So why is government borrowing accelerating again? I thought we had a conversation earlier this year and we said we were going to do something great, and we are definitely going to dive into less borrowing this year. But all of a sudden, we are seeing an auction of 5.8 trillion, which is really, really huge. Now, is this simply about managing excess cash in the banking system, funding the budget, fighting inflation, or could it have wider implications for interest rates, private sector lending, and maybe the economy at large? What is the CBN trying to achieve here? That is a question we are going to uncover. Now, away from that, let's head straight into the markets. If you thought June was just another month on the stock market, I think you need to think again, because a lot of people are crying. It's been red, it's been shining red everywhere. Now, Nigeria's biggest listed companies lost almost 12 trillion naira in market value in just 1 month. From banks to telecoms to industrial giants, investors took profits after months of strong gains, while high interest rates, foreign exchange volatility, and portfolio rebalancing added more pressure to the market. So is this simply a healthy market correction, like some people would say, or are investors becoming more cautious about where the economy is headed? Now, what do these numbers tell us about the economy, and what do they mean for you and your pocket? We'll discuss this after the break. My name is Divine Alex. Stay put. You're welcome back. This is still the business lens of Rapid Television Abuja. Now, today's conversation is really about one thing: follow the money. Petrol prices are changing. Government is spending hundreds of billions to support electricity, planning to raise 5.8 trillion naira through treasury bills, while investors have just watched almost 12 trillion naira wiped off the stock market. And at the same time, a fresh debate has broken out over the IMF's observations on Nigeria's public finances, with the federal government insisting there was no secret spending and no shadow budget. So are we simply looking at different interpretations of the same numbers, or do these figures reveal something much bigger about the state of Nigeria's economy? That is the conversation today. And joining me today is economist Adiola Dekule from Keto Markets. Good morning. Good morning. And Daniel Efa from Keto Market. Good morning, Daniel. Good morning. Now who is a global business analyst? No, sorry, I'm so excited today because the conversation, I've been following this conversation for 2 days, Saturday and Sunday, and I don't know, I've been reading hot takes on the IMF versus the finance ministry's press statements. So I want to get your thoughts first, Daniel. What does this signal us? I don't know if you saw the back and forth on the X app.
So I think that it is not as deep as it is being interpreted. Why am I saying that? I think that we need to understand the fact that the government did a lot of overlapping of budgetary conversations from 2024 to 2025. But budget figures were not even released, right? So we didn't know how much we were spending or how much we actually did make every of those years up until 2026. So I think it was 2026 the president said everything should be collapsed into one, and there will definitely be discrepancies, because if you didn't track something for 2 years, right, the third year for you to compile together, definitely be issues. The only problem I have is that we are no with the way we treat the fiscal conversations, particularly with the federal government, is becoming less accountable as time goes on, right? Should IMF be the one talking about it, right? Should there not be bodies that are in charge of conversations like this, right? So because the response of the finance minister confirms that conversation. The finance minister says that he didn't even address that figures. He didn't address the missing figures. He only addressed the legality in conversation. That every of this funding that we got was approved by the National Assembly, and it was because it followed due process, right? So that means that there's a problem with the due process, because the due process should be the one highlighting this conversation. Due process should be the one checking this conversation, because as IMF is citing it, they should the finance minister should probably be this Monday should probably be resuming to the National Assembly to defend whatever conversation. But so what we are always seeing is that we are entering a trend whereby, and it didn't start now. It's almost 10 years now. Entering a trend whereby our policymakers can spend anyhow they want to, and nobody cares, and nobody will say anything, and we'll all just shout on X app, like you said.
Who polices the police?
Exactly. Who polices the police? Now, speaking about him talking about the legality of what happened, how it happened, and the fact that he went through due process. Now, the question is this: why was the IMF's observation interpreted so differently by the public, if the government is insisting that every expenditure was legally approved? I want to get your take on that.
Well, if there's an agreement, usually there's usually no uproar. For example, somebody comes in here now and gives the three of us, some good liquid cash. We'll just keep quiet and keep it moving.
Okay.
But once there's a conflict of interest, also conflict of interpretation and conflict of reports,
okay,
then you will see that there will be a lot of back and forth. I think there was something that happened, was it 3 years ago, when Yemi Kale left MBS, and when they were trying to recalculate the labor data and also the inflation, how inflation rate is gotten. At the point in time, they're also talking about what does it mean for somebody to be employed. There was a whole lot of back and forth, because what is being done, or what you're trying to do, is kind of a deviation from international standards. So if IMF had come out with a report that favors what the government is saying, you most likely will not be seeing all this. But because there's some kind of IMF is saying this, our government is saying this, definitely people can say, well, there's a gap in between. Let's make conversations about it.
Okay, so now should we be looking at this as just a reporting problem, or maybe the statements or something? Maybe there's more to it.
So I think that the IMF report, right, which was really about Nigeria outlook, right, what we've done so far, and where the issues lies, right? So if the IMF is saying that what we are selling to the world is that we've undertook some of the most extreme or the most daring fiscal reforms yet in our history, right? We've done that, and but then the people are still suffering. In fact, now over 60% of Nigerians are poor, below poverty line. 63%. Because
more than 80% are poor. Yeah.
So, and about 20 or 24 million are in a state of food insecurity, and they cannot even feed, right?
So my staff to death.
So the IMF is saying we are marrying the two conversations. We've undertook reforms, and we've also you've subjected people to extreme poverty. Now let's look at what has it done to you in terms of fiscal revenue. That's giving you a lot of money. You have made a lot of money from the subsidy removal, from
widening taxes.
Exactly, widening tax net, the violation of the FX, and no longer spend as much on FX. So now, how do you interpret the reforms? And this is what I've always been complaining about. I was of the opinion at the beginning that don't take a subsidy if you're not sure. If you're not sure that you're going to ensure that whatever comes from subsidy benefits the people directly. If you're going to bet on subsidy removal, you must be extremely sure that you're going to actually solve the issues the people will face. But now, what have we done? The bet obviously has failed, because that is the reason why IMF is saying, even looking at the figures from subsidy removal up until now, imagine us not being able to even keep a yearly budget for 1 year. Remember that the government came in 2023, so that means that half of 2023 would not be counted, because they've already there's a
budget already
exactly.
2022.
So the government only came out and did a supplementary budget. So that means 2024, 2025, no budget was implemented, or no document that says this is what we implemented for. What we only have is our preparation bills for those 2 years. And 2026 is now the year you're saying want to compile. So that means the government will practical, and next year there's another half year. So that means the government will practically run a 4-year tenure without having a budget. Without having a budget report, this is what we spend, this is what we implemented in a period where you add more money, borrowed more money, you get made more money from subsidy removal. So what exactly is happening? And that is where this IMF is being diplomatic with the statement, because if it's in Nigeria that actually
wrote the report.
Nigeria is the country director of the IMF Nigeria, but I'm saying if it is a Nigerian organization that understands the plight of Nigerians, that has a stake in whatever Nigerians feel.
And first time,
it will be more damning than that, because we need to stop sugarcoating the conversations, right? You cannot be a child in a family and parents say, no, we are no longer eating 3 square meals, we are eating just 1. But then the sacrifice of eating the one, you're trying to do something that will benefit Allah. And you're seeing your father just buying extra cars and going to parties and spending money anyhow. You will revolt at some point. You will think about it and say, I'm suffering for the wrong thing. And that is exactly where we are. So if IMF is saying this is the issue, which is just citing, imagine it's just citing 2% of your GDP as is missing. Why is it not balanced?
Why is it not balanced?
Then defense is that you're doing it
illegally. Okay, now that defense, which was the statement from the finance minister, Taiwo Ebele, did a lot of explanation, and even though you said he did not really address the particular
once explanation is becoming too much, you know that there's already a problem.
There's a problem, right? Now, should Nigerians really be accepting this explanation? Do you think that Nigerians should go, or do you think that maybe we should demand more, or maybe get the government to get into, bringing out this records publicly and make it easy for citizens to understand it?
There's something that Daniel said, a word that he used when I was talking about subsidy removal. He said if they are not sure that whatever they are going to do is going to directly affect the citizens in a positive way, then don't remove subsidy, because there is no country on earth can go and do your findings that does not have one subsidy or another, because that is the whole essence of governance. The government will come around and say, okay, what's going on with my people? Oh, they need something there. Oh, they need this there, and you supply it, because the government is meant to be the people, But now we are not seeing that anymore. It's been a long time, even before this administration, that I was saying that it's as if the Nigerian people work for the Nigerian government. Yeah. That's the way it seems. Because it seems as if you're laboring every day. You practically get no support from the government at the grassroots level. Because even as a business owner, any business owner can come and tell us as an SME that when was the last time you got electricity subsidy or you got some kind of grant from the government. You do everything yourself. And at the end of the day, you still pay taxes and give to the government. So what does the government use all the funds for? So it's time for people to start demanding from a low level, because we can't demand for everything at once. At least let people get things directly. If there's an adage in my language that if you go and meet the oracle and the oracle cannot help you go forward, the oracle should not send you backward. She should just leave you as you are, so that you go and look for another option somewhere. So if the subsidy removal is not working for Nigerians, I think it's time that the subsidy is put back, and so that, because that is one of the few things that touches everybody. If the price of PMS goes down, it means the price of transportation goes down. It means the price of some productions go down. It also means that the price of running SMEs and some small companies goes down. What that does is that it frees up disposable income to be able to do other things and thereby lift the economy up.
And now I want us to look at this. How do you think that we should take on this? Because beyond legality, how important is it that the government key into public confidence in government finances, especially at a time where Nigeria is seeking more loans, is trying to attract investors, or even implement more economic reforms? Because no matter how much you talk about taxes from January to now, it is still new to a lot of people. This thing is something new that they are just looking into how to get into.
To be honest, there's really no way Nigerian people can actually do anything rather than clamor for institutions. I think what we do not have any longer is strong institutions. We don't have any. We don't have institutions that can, because it's this kind of conversations, right? People resign over it. Like in senior climbs in very advanced countries, you resign when you're not even. Nobody said you did it, but the fact that you could have done it
under your watch.
Under your watch, you could have seen it, as you could have stopped it. We have budget office is there. There's a budget office. There's a ministry of budget planning and everything. There are so many people that could have seen it. Also, in the same period, you have an agency that was supposedly fake. In the same period, that means what we've just been doing, a subsidy money was just being free, but we're just spraying.
Yes,
we're just spending
instead of investing in institutions and things that can help.
So if you're just spending, and in quotes, the checks and balances that should happen in an ideal system is not happening, because of course there's more money to still spend around. Nobody is checking anything. So until that happens, we cannot solve this problem. And that is why I knew this then, and I said it. I remember 2020. I said I will not support a subsidy removal in a country that is not institutionally strong. Why? Because how do you hold anybody to account if this thing doesn't work as you start to say? We keep going to national committee and tell them we've done fantastic reforms. Reforms that are killing your people on a day-to-day. Reforms that are not that is not promoting.
It doesn't get down.
Exactly.
So just it's hanging, yeah. So because at the end of the day, we need to do better. At the end of the day, we have seen a situation where, personally for me, I was arguing it when the subsidy was removed, that with the subsidy removed, with the Naira being floated then, you can argue it that we shouldn't even borrow for the next budget. If we're talking about real budget being implemented, I'm not talking about the trillions and 54 trillion and all that. If you look at the end of the year, how much of that money was actually implemented? We had increase in revenue, even from oil, one way or the other. We had increase in revenue from taxes and from solid minerals. It is very possible for Nigeria to say, okay, because of this, let's even experiment and not borrow anything for a whole year.
See how our budget
let's do it according to what we have. Because the government, I'll keep saying it, has not cut their spending for years, for decades if possible. Yeah. But Nigerian people are expected to cut their spending by fire by force over the years. I did the calculation last time we spoke about this thing, and I said that our budget has increased by at least 27x, between 15 years ago and now. Meanwhile, our revenue has not gotten up to 8 times. Meaning that between 15 years ago, like 2010, and now we have increased our budget by 27 times. That is what we spend. But what we make has not even gotten up to 10 times. So it's not adding up.
And the truth of the matter is that, and that's why I don't all those theories that Nigeria is not rich and not Nigeria is. I just laugh because what we've only done is that we spent so much without developing anything. So it's just like a man that lives in a street, very terrible roads, but just keeps buying new car. That's what we've been doing. The road that is meant to maintain that's meant to maintain these resources to be more effective has not been done for so many years. In fact, it's even worse. In the last 10 years. It's even worse in the last 10 years. So I begin to wonder why spend so much and you can't really see.
And the danger in that is that when you keep spending and you're not spending on your institutions, you are spending on something else that will start competing with your institutions. So you now start having individuals that can rival your institutions. Because whether you like it or not, nature abhors vacuum. You cannot be stagnant. It's a false sense of movement for you to think. You cannot. Is that you are going forward, or you are going backward. If you think you are stagnant, no, you are going backward. That means that if our institutions, our ministries are not going forward, it means that something else is going forward. And if you get to a time that an individual might even be challenging the whole institution and nothing will happen.
That's what's happening with oil. That's what's happening with the amount of money that NNPC has spent on refineries that could have been working and could have even probably been a source of subsidy constitutions right now for Nigerian people. But you spend trillions of naira, repairing nothing, right? Now a business is not doing what you should have been doing. And you're shouting monopoly. Why the person monopoly? Because there's a
vacuum. You don't need to shout monopoly. Just go and do your own.
Exactly.
All those ones that we have, we say, okay, I don't vex. Then you go and repair the 3 major refineries and let them compete and make sure they repair them. When you ask people to explain why are these repairs not working, you cannot get any tangible answer. The same thing with Ajaokuta Steel. The whole idea of Ajaokuta Steel cannot work. Ask any engineer that is worth its name. It cannot work. The type of metal that it needs to be fed is usually not even in Nigeria. The ones in Nigeria are far away. So by design it cannot work. You know, so you keep spending money on something you know most likely cannot work. Why don't you just turn it to something else that can actually generate revenue for you? So we have been dancing around the same cycle. Why? Because some individuals or some people will eventually benefit from it at the expense of the commonwealth of everybody. Which
is really, really sad. Now let's take this quick break. When we come back, we'll continue having the conversation. And the next conversation is going to center around the NNPC because we need to understand what is going on there. We'll be right back. Okay, you're welcome back. This is still the Business Lens of Rapid Television, Abuja. Now, we were having a conversation earlier, and somehow it linked from the IMF and the finance conversation to the NNPC because of the whole conversation around the oil sector. Now, that brings me to what is happening in the oil and gas sector. Now, we have Dangote petroleum products come out to say that, oh, we have reduced petrol price again from 1,125 naira to 1,075 naira by 50 naira. And a lot of times people are already asking questions. I think on my way coming down to this place, I had to even try to do a little bit of research to see how many of these fuel stations have started implementing these prices at the pump. Guess what? The conversation is vast. So now I'm going to start with you, Economist Abiola. If Dangote has reduced petrol prices twice in 1 week, according to him, and then we also had, on the other hand, NNPC coming out to say, okay, our revenue also fell short, despite the fact that we had stable production and a lot of maybe swinging in because of the Navy that jumped in to save some, some illegal oil thefts that's around the diesel aspect now. What do you think this means for us? How can these things like incorporate each other to also get to the common man? Because as it stands now this morning, they have reduced prices of petrol, and NNPC is also crying about revenue shortfall right now. What do you think this means?
First of all, I bought fuel 1,260 yesterday. Not anybody, me myself. So if Dangote has reduced to 1,075 naira, I did not buy that amount. I bought at 1,260. So evidently, to that filling station, it had not reflected yet. So I know it's going to take a while because they always tell you they have old stock, you know, but if there's an increase, there's no narration or story about old stock. It goes up immediately. But that's their business. Nigerians have gotten to a stage where they become plastic, you know, in their emotions to a lot of things because they just feel that they are living in a rented country. That's the way an average Nigerian feels. They might not know it, but that's the way they feel. They are not really married to the country. That is why when NNPC is saying that our revenue has fallen short, the question is, how does it affect me? They don't care. That's the truth. If you want Nigerians to care about some of this news that comes out, they need to understand the relationship between that news and themselves. If you go to any country and the country is saying that, oh, we just discovered gold, and that's a country that before they discovered gold, they developed so much. They've done a lot of things. Things actually do work. They'll be very happy because they know that more revenue to them actually means that they are going to enjoy it also. Now, enjoyment doesn't mean that somebody has to always give you money. Enjoyment sometimes means that some things just work. You know why when some people relocate out of Nigeria and they start, you know, talking about it as if it's heaven, is because things actually do work. I have friends in the UK that their children will just leave the house and go to their school. you will not think too much about it, because you know that there's a high level of security. There's food in the school that they feed them. They come back home. You don't worry about power. You don't worry about internet. You don't worry about what you want to watch. You just dedicate. You just see all of a sudden that a lot of things just goes away. A lot of stress. The same thing with people that are very religious. You know, I'm a Christian, and I see a lot of my friends that travel out, they don't go to church as much anymore, because most of the reasons why we go to church, for example, in Nigeria, is to pray for things that the government should answer. So if Nigerians cannot draw the connection between NNPC making money or losing money to their daily lives, then they don't really care. Now, talking about NNPC, have you ever declared profit before? I think once. And even that profit was Ojoro profit. Because if you look at it well, it was not direct profit. So NNPC has to start entering into conversations where they can be discussing, where people like Aramco are also talking, other oil companies in other countries are also talking, because when all those people bring out their profit, NNPC should also say, okay, we'll wait this, we might not be up to you guys, but we are on the way. But NNPC cannot talk in those conversations, because if they're in the same room, people are declaring billions of dollars in profit every month, and we cannot even declare for even 2 months, you know, at a stretch. So whether their revenue falls or it goes up, how does it really affect the Nigerian person?
Now, let me come to you, Daniel. Now, on the other hand, we have to also look at this, because there's another conversation on the fact that Dangote say they're opening their doors to other petroleum marketers, right? And now the NNPC is saying, okay, we're not making enough, which could, you know, be tied to the petroleum. Do you think that, you know, Nigeria is finally becoming a competitive, you know, petroleum market?
Well, competitive in Nigeria is a different conversation entirely. What we thought was going to be the deregulation was that to make the space everybody is
to all players.
But then that's not what's happening. Everybody's not playing. Was not last week.
Reminds me of World Cup.
Marketers threatened your regulator that if you control prices, we'll shut down filling stations. That is what your marketers told you. I was like, I'm just like, assuming this was Donald Trump. Like marketers are telling you all be out of business. They will practically get a company that will supply. So I'm like, that is where we are. That is the kind of nation that we be. So the whole PIA just sounds as if it was just documentation, because we've not done anything right after them. The whole idea of deregulating a sector is to ensure that your regulator is now very strong and be able to control the space. In fact, we've seen FCCPC, from Consumer Protection, act more than the regulators in that space. We've seen them take on court cases against them
and bring out results.
It is very funny when you look at those conversations. When you look at when NNPC is saying that they have what's the word?
Shortage.
Yes. I don't understand it. Why am I saying I don't understand it? May, part of the highest oil prices we've had in recent times. In the same May, based on their figures, they did around 1.7 million barrels. That means they did the exact quota for the entirety of May. Exact quota of OPEC. So when you have those two pointers together to the fact that this is what's happening, and you made the money you were meant to make. So why then do you have a shortfall? What in the report is there a reason cited for the shortfall? But in the same May, the same NNPC now goes to Enugu. Was it Enugu State or I think the Enugu State, and decides to build a world-class MRI center, right, as part of the foundation. So foundation still has money. Foundation got money, but the country that needs the money primarily did not get the money. So me personally, I think I've always said it, that my trust level of NNPC is like almost zero. Like I still feel like they've not yet proven, just like it was comparing to Aramco and Co. We're not yet there. We're not even Algeria. We're not even Algeria and Angola level in terms of accountability management. We're not there yet. Suddenly, Navy has been uncovering illegal almost 69 cases this year alone. So suddenly 11,000 liters. You know how small 11,000 liters? It's not even up to a normal tank or a normal what's the word? A normal these tankers that move on the road. So that's 30,000. So that's 11,000. You're incoming 11,000, and you should be celebrated. And about 69 of them. One is crude oil. One is suddenly Navy in 2026 just suddenly found the mojo to start solving problems. Well, if that's the case, then we should stop giving Tantita security 4 billion a month.
Can I ask a question, Daniel? Why would the NNPC, knowing that this is the area we get our oil from, it's not the whole of the country, right? Why would the NNPC not go and sit down with the Air Force? You know, we have a space agency. Yes. You know, that I don't think we have satellite, but we have space agency. Why would they sit down with all these people and use normal technology that an average Nigerian has access to? You can have drones in the air 24/7, monitoring the whole area, and those drones will be armed with AI detection. They will tell you everything that is going on. How much will this take for something that is giving revenue to the whole of your country? Make it make sense. How much is NNPC going to spend with the Nigerian Air Force and say, okay, this is what we want to achieve, and space agency? As they give us this thing, when the drones come down to recharge, another set will go there. What is so hard in all these things? They make it seem as if this is rocket science is understandable by people.
From 4 billion naira, you can get about 400 drones. If you are using the drones that Iran used during the war,
we can even tell you to 20,000 locally here.
Yes, for a land area that is not the land area I'm talking about is not up to the entirety of Niger State. Niger Borno combined.
Yes,
it's not up to. So why can't you have
20 drones? 1,000 drones. 20 drones effective. Do you know how many satellites provide you with all those Google Maps and everything? They are not that much, because you don't need them to be monitoring every area per second. What they do is to keep going around. So they always notice if there's any change within an hour. So you don't need that much drone to always move around.
And these discoveries are not something that you have to use a microscope to look for. They are big ships.
So at the end of the day, it still goes back to what I always say about any government in this kind of issue. It's just the willingness. If our government is ready and they want to do it, they will do it. But that you say that they cannot do it, I don't believe in it.
I don't believe in it. Thank you so much for that. I wish we could push on having this conversation, because there's a lot more that we could discuss on. But unfortunately, our time is already fast spent. Now, the numbers never lie, but they don't always tell the full story. That's why we ask the questions. Thank you so much for joining us on Business Lens. My name is Divine Alex. Have a productive week, and we'll see you on the next episode. Bye for now.